this. So I'm sharing this screen. So now you are able to see the code, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now anyway, so let us start our discussion. Okay, fine. Yeah. So now you see, so if you remember, so in the last class, so we were discussing this, lateral torsion buckling.
Excuse me, sir.
Please.
So the screen got tilted, I think. We are seeing it in portrait.
Oh, okay. How do I do this? It will be in the settings, right? Now I think it's fine.
No, no, yeah, now it's fine. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So now I see the last class, this lateral torsion buckling, you were seeing. Okay. So now, so if you go to YouTube, I will send you some links itself where they have done a lot of experiments on lateral torsion buckling. You can see those videos itself to have a physical feeling. Okay, so what happens to their beams when there is a lateral torsion buckling? Essentially, eye sections. Okay, so some videos I will send you. You can go through also. So last class, so we have derived, we have seen for thin-walled sections, say, like a singly symmetric, doubly symmetric, you see. So what happens? See, now if you remember, say for doubly symmetric cross sections, the buckling mode shapes, okay, like two bending and then one twist is there. So all of them will be, there is no coupling. Okay, so this we have seen in the last class. And if there is a one axis is the single symmetry kind of a thing, then you will be having flexure torsional buckling. So all those things we have seen in our last class. Okay, and now generally if it is not, if it is unsymmetric section, say, so you will be having flexural torsion itself. And you can find out solving, you see, the quadratic equations or cubic equation, and you can find out what is the buckling load. Okay, so this we have seen in our last class. And then finally I think we went towards lateral torsion buckling of beams. Okay, so this was the problem we were discussing, okay, in the last class. So already we have written the energy. So just I'm just writing once again. So this was our z-axis was here. So this is your y-axis, and you have some type of arbitrary load. Okay, so that is WY or something like that. Okay. So now I have also drawn the section. So our section is like this. It is an I section. It is not symmetry. Okay, so centroid is somewhere here. Then you have the shear center also. Okay, so both of them are there. So now what we have said was so because of this lateral torsion buckling, say, so your thing becomes something like this. Okay, so we have defined, I think, two coordinate systems. So this is x and this is y, and the deformed coordinates also you can write. Okay, so this is some eta, and this is our psi. Okay, so now we have seen, right, so you have an angle of twist, I think some phi or beta, anything you can use. And then we started writing all the expressions. So I think last class we already written the expression for strain energy. Okay, so this already we wrote in our last class. So what we have said was, here the strain energy, say, see, when W is whatever your load, so when it is less than WCR, the critical buckling load, so the beam will be only in bending only, the bending mode, there is no buckling mode kind of a thing. But when W is equal to WCR during the transition, say, so your thing starts lateral torsion buckling. So we have ignored this that bending energy. Okay, so I think our last class we already wrote. So that is half so if you remember, say, so 0 to L, so EI by U double dash whole square plus E your warping constant is there. So phi double dash square plus so gj. Okay, so phi dash square. So this entire expression say multiplied by dz. Okay, so this was our expression which we wrote in the last class for the internal the strain energy. And u and v also we have already defined what is u and v. So so this is our shear center say. Okay, so we so this is in this coordinate system. So this is u and this is v. So u is your lateral the deformation. Okay, so that's why u comes, but we have ignored v. Okay, because it is like a bending kind of a thing. So this we have ignored. Okay, so now this is our strain energy. Now we were trying to calculate work done by the load. So for this also, I think last class I already we have already seen. Okay, so I think we have already drawn. This is our I section. Okay, so let us say load is not applied at the top flange at some point. Okay, so some point if it is applied, say so wy or something. So I think we have already seen. So this is a centroid. This is our shear center. So from distance from the shear center say, is ay. Okay, so this is our ay. So now after deformation, so this becomes during buckling, say. So this has become almost like this. So now this is your S dash. Okay, and this is our centroid here. So now this S dash, the shear center, has moved by some ys if I denote the vertical movement or something. So now our load also say. Okay, so this is our load. So now we have to find out how much is this. Okay, so this distance we have to find out. And all the angles everything is known to you. So this angle is your phi, the angle of twist so this is our new coordinate system. So psi and then the eta also. So if you try to this is not psi dash, psi psi and eta itself. Okay, so now this was so this thing say was our ay. Okay, so this is our just the geometry actually. Okay, so now we have to find out this thing, how much the load has come down actually. Okay, the movement itself. So now you can use all your trigonometry you followed, right? So trigonometric identities you can find out. So this distance is it can be written as some ys plus modulus of ay bar 1 minus cos phi. Okay, so this portion. So that is this quantity you can write in this format. So you can do your algebra. So shear center has moved by ys say. So now you have ys, then you this inclination and other things if you add, you will get an expression you say like this. Now this modulus of a y bar why it has been written here is, see now to make it more general. See now sometimes what happens in this problem, the load is applied on the top line, not at the top line, something you see above itself. Okay, so now you see, so now sometimes what happens in I sections sometimes in the beams say, so you can apply load at the centroid also. Here also you can apply the load. Okay, or sometimes in some cases say you can apply load at the bottom flange also. Okay, now what's the difference between these three? You would have done this experiment in our lab also. You people will do in our laboratory also. Okay, now what is the difference between these three and how it is related to lateral torsion buckling? Which is worst? Which is this one? No. See, one load is applied at the bottom flange. Okay, now here load is applied at the top portion, some top flange. Now you can apply load at the even the centroid also. No. So now you look at this figure, say, which is more dangerous for lateral torsional buckling. Even in IS 800 also there is a description about these things. Okay, and even when you do our structural engineering laboratory course, okay, for BTech as well as I think experimental techniques for MTechs, so you will do this lateral torsion buckling in our laboratory for the I section. So now between these three, say what does it tells you which is more dangerous for lateral torsion buckling, where the chances are very high?
Top flange.
Top flange. You would have done the experiment also. Why top flange? So you can see this figure. See what is happening here. The rotation is phi, and if top flange when it is acting, what happens? It will induce a movement, and it causes this toppling kind of a thing. Now when the load is applied at bottom flange, what happens? See, suppose if the load is applied at this bottom flange, say, so this tries to, arrest this, this buckling, this lateral torsional buckling itself. So, even in our IS code also, they mention all these things, and of course, some neutral, stable, unstable, some type of things are there. So this is more, dangerous kind of a thing when you apply the load on the top flange. Okay. So this modulus of AY, say, whatever we have written, generally, this derivation is more generalized case. So it depends on, this modulus. Suppose if the load is applied on the top flange, say, so AY will be negative because, our axis is, like this. Okay. So Y is here, the origin is here. So above it is a negative kind of a thing. So when the, it is applied at bottom flange, say, so this AY becomes, positive kind of a thing. Okay. So that is how we see this modulus of AY, we have written. So finally, so if you write your work done by our load, okay, so work done by the load, so that is Wy. So you can write this as, minus 0 to L. So two things will be there, Ys and this combination due to twist also. So Ws is our Wy, then Ys, dz, plus we have, Ay bar, say, by 2, 0 to L, so Wy into phi square dz. Okay, so this is the work done by our the load. Okay, so now that the sign change is basically, to accommodate this one. Okay, Ay bar is negative because of the axis we have taken here. So this is a work done by the load itself. So now here, in these problems, you can derive, the equations, okay, relating shear force, bending moment, and all other things also you can do. So if you take any section on the beam, and let us say this is our Wy. So this side, so shear force you have, so if you take any small element, say, so dz in the beam. So now, you know all the reactions. So mbx, so this fit is, mbx plus, so dmbx, same as how you in our IUG, like Euler-Bernoulli beam theory, right? To derive a relationship between shear force, bending moment, we use all these things. So this is our QWY. Okay, so you can derive the same, more or less same only, like, sigma Fy is equal to 0, so automatically you will get dQy by, say, okay, so derivative of shear force, okay, is equal to load itself, that is a UDL. Then if you take, the moment equilibrium, say, these are standard. Okay, so MA is equal to 0. So if you take this side as A and this side as B, say, just, you will get the bending moment, shear force relation. So dm, bx by dz. So this is same as shear force. Okay, so this is same as what you have done previous, like derivative of shear force is load, your distributed load, and derivative bending moment is shear force itself. So you make use of all these things, and then, you can substitute in these expressions. Okay, so 0 to L, so Wy into Ys dz. Okay, so this quantity is there. Okay, so this first term in our, this quantity. So this we can write in terms of shear force and bending moments itself. Right now it is in terms of deflection and slopes. So now, now deflection and then this angle of twist itself, we can write in terms of bending moment and shear force. So this quantity is, so if you substitute, Wy, okay, that is a distributed load, as this expression in terms of shear force, we can write like this. So dq, Wy by dz multiplied by your Ys into dz. So now you integrate by parts, say. So you have, so QWY into Ys 0 to L minus, so we have 0 to L, so QWY, so dYs by, dz into dz. So this is our expression comes. Okay, so now once again, this portion, so you can, integrate by parts, so this quantity itself, and then you can bring, the bending moment also into our calculations. Say you can also write this expression as, so mbx, so dys, say, by, dz 0 to L minus, 0 to L, so this quantity, so mbx, so d square ys by, dz square dz. So finally, you can write in terms of bending moments and shear force. Now if you look at these two terms, say, what will be the value of these two terms? See, this is nothing but the shear force and displacement actually. Okay, at 0 and L. So this is nothing but your bending moment and, the slope at 0 and L. What will be this quantity? Suppose if you take a simply supported ends. Okay, so now for simply supported, what are the boundary conditions? if the ends are simply supported, say. What is the boundary condition?
Bending moment will be 0.
Bending moment will be 0. Then
And
what about
deflection
the
will be
deflection?
0.
So now which means this quantity at the both the ends if they're simply supported, sir. So this is 0, this is 0. So which means this also term goes away, this term also goes away. Now suppose if it is a fixed say, then fixed. Both the ends are fixed kind of thing. Now what happens to these two? At the fixed end, what is 0?
Deflection.
So
Deflection
ys
and
is 0.
slope.
This is also 0. So once again these two terms vanish. Now suppose if it is a fixed free cantilever. Now what happens if the one end is fixed, let us say at 0, then anyway both the terms are 0. Now at free end, what's the boundary condition? Like a cantilever, say.
Bending moment will be 0.
And if it is free, if it is a cantilever, so bending moment is 0, shear force is also 0 actually. Okay. So these two, goes, so yeah, so whatever maybe your conditions are fixed, simply supported, whatever this one, so this term, say, both of them are of no use actually. Okay. Because it is a very, very interesting thing. Okay. The reason why it is always 0, because, the boundary conditions with respect to mbx and qyy, we are calling them as natural boundary conditions. Okay. And the boundary conditions with respect to deflection, these kinematic variables, the slope and others, we call this as a geometric boundary conditions. But this is a special case where your boundary conditions are product of geometric and natural. So whatever may be this case, so automatically these two will be 0 itself. So this is a very interesting the case which comes in lateral torsional buckling. So now finally, so now our work done by the load, so you substitute, say. So finally these two are 0. So this is the only term which is remaining. So now you substitute, say. So 0 to L, you can write in terms of bending moments. So mbx, so d square ys by dz square dz. Of course, you have that ay bar, okay, by 2, 0 to L. So wy phi square dz. Okay, so this is our final the expression, work done by the load. Now suppose the same problem, say, let us say you have applied load not at the top flange, you have applied load at the bottom flange. What is that you have to change in this problem? So now we have taken at the top, not even some above the top flange, somewhere else we have taken. Suppose if the load is applied at the bottom flange, you say what will change? So what has to be the only just ay? So this has to be sign change. That's all. Because now ay becomes positive, okay? Because it is in the downward axis. So that is the only change you have to do. So just remember, same derivation you can do yourself for bottom flange also. Okay. So this is the work done. Okay. So now here also some more so this is why. So now if we see this strain energy, whatever we have written previously. So the strain energy we have written in terms of u, then phi dash and phi dash. Okay. So now where u is nothing but the deflection. Okay, so that is your u, that is in which coordinate system? Your psi eta coordinate system we are having. Now in this work done by the load, say, we have ys here. Okay, so ys is nothing but the how much the shear center has moved down. So now you have to convert this. So if I want to combine all these things, so you are having a u phi. So finally you have to write everything in terms of this u and phi variables only. Okay. So now here, so this ys has to be related to u1 phi itself. So it's very easy. You can easily find out. So the relationship between ys and u1 v. Okay. So you can easily find out what's the relationship between ys. So this is our shear center, say. Okay. So the shear center, this so this is our ys. So relationship between v and u and your ys. Okay, so this you can find out from your phi. So just the algebra itself you have to do. So you will get so your ys, say, is you can write v cos phi plus some u sine phi kind of a thing. Okay, so this you get. So d square ys, say, by dz square, you can write this as v double dash cos phi plus u double dash sine phi. And if phi is small, okay, so if phi is small, so one can show that so cos phi will be equal to 1 and sine phi will be equal to phi itself. Okay, so this you can substitute in this expressions. So now the work done by your the load. So this becomes minus 0 to L. So mbx. So V double dash plus phi, you know, U double dash. So dz plus ay bar by 2. Okay. So 0 to L. So wy pi square dz. Okay. Now here once again we have the problem. What is mbx v double dash, this term? What is the first term?
Product of natural and geometric boundary condition.
The product of natural and geometric is fine, but what is that it indicates? See what does it indicates? What type of strain energy it is? Now, what is that strain energy? Now, mbx is nothing but your bending moment, okay? Plus this quantity is what is the physically meaning? What type of strain energy it is? See, this term is suppose before buckling, okay, the beam has not buckled till yet. So now when the beam has not yet buckled, say, so your angle of twist and your u, that's the lat deflection, all of them will be 0. Okay, when w is less than your wcr, say your wy, the critical buckling load, so there is no chance of buckling, so which means your phi u are 0, so you have only bending. You followed? So that is only v will be there, so only bending is coming into picture here. Now when y is more than wcr or at the transition, then only phi and u will be coming into 0. So this quantity is nothing but your static potential energy. You followed it before the buckling takes place. And you remember in the strain energy expression also we have ignored that bending, that v double dot kind of a thing we have ignored here. So now in the load also, so this is static potential energy, so this is not important for our what you can say, this buckling kind of a thing. So this has to be ignored actually. Okay, so if you ignore this quantity, so your work done, say, so 0 to L, we have ignored in the starting also. Okay, when we write our strain energy. So this expression will be mbx phi u double dash dz plus ay bar by 2, 0 to L. So we have wy into phi square dz. So this is the work done by our load. So now you can write the total energy. So u plus v. So now you have, so the strain energy we wrote 0 to L. So if you write nicely, say, so EIY u double dash square plus E, the warping, the constant will be there. So phi double dash whole square plus GJ. Okay, so phi dash square. So this is our strain energies dz. Okay, plus minus we have 0 to L. So mbx. So phi into u double dash dz plus ay bar by 2, 0 to L. So wy into phi square dz. So this is our total strain energy for our B. Okay, for this lateral torsional buckling only. So we have ignored your V double dot here also, there also. So automatically if we include also, they get cancelled automatically. You followed it, nothing to worry. So this is our total expression. Now to make the problem more interesting, say, so the same beam we are having Wx also. Now what happens? So Wy is so we have considered Wy here, and we have done. Now you have Wx also, lateral direction also you have a, it is something like, you see, a biaxial bending problem here. So just for to make the problem more interesting or more generalized, say, okay, so you can derive for Wx itself. Okay, so that same thing you have to do, okay, but only in other direction you have. So this is our z, same problem only, just we are applying, so now it becomes y, now it becomes x kind of a thing. So so this is our load, set to make more complicated. So now wx. Okay, so everything remains the same. Okay, no difference between this and this. Only thing is, wherever we have u, you have to change it to v, and of course the same angle of twist, because it's a combination, say, same things can be included here. The only difference here will be, so the only difference here, all the things will be perfectly fine, but one small the correction will be there in terms of this x, that ys is there. Now we have the xs itself. Okay, so now we have written, right, xs, the shear center, how much it has moved. So this will be u cos phi minus v sin phi will come So this becomes, u double dash, say minus phi into v double dash. So all the derivation whatever we have done, you just replace y with x and mby. So vwx, then mby, all the terms will be same. So ay bar becomes ax. So all the expressions are going to remain same, except we have substituted, right? Ys is equal to v cos phi plus u sin phi. So using this, you can easily find out for xs. Xs means how much shear center has moved also. So there you will have some light difference. Other things are all mostly, they remain same itself, and all the similar things also will come into picture. Okay, so you can write vwx. Okay, so 0 to l, so mby, so phi v double dash dz. So you derive it yourself. Okay, everything remains the same. So 0 to l wx phi square dz. Okay, so just to make the things more complicated, that's all. So now, so similarly, so this is the work done by this one, and you can add all the terms. So now the total energy, say, so now the total energy due to x as well as y also. So if you try to calculate, so you have half 0 to l, so we have eiy, so u double dash whole square plus, so eix also will come into picture, v double dash square. So it is much more general case. Okay, so plus warping also we have phi double dash square, plus we have this gj. Okay, so phi dash square. So this is our strain energy, dz. And now we have another component will be there, so minus 0 to l, so mbx into phi u double dash dz plus 0 to l, so mby v double dash dz plus half. Okay, so you will be having 0 to l wx into ax bar plus wy into ay bar phi square dz. So this is more general case. Okay, what we are writing. So you can have both the ends. Okay, biaxial bending can be then possible. So now this is our total strain, the total energy inside our beam. So now if you see these expressions here, so now you can see this entire function whatever we have written, say. Okay, so 0 to l, if you write it as sum f, so it depends on if you see what are the variables here. So you have u double dash are there, then v double dash are there, then phi is there somewhere here. You can have phi term is there, then u double dash is there, v double dash, then phi double dash, phi dash also is there. Okay, so these are our variables. Okay, so now these are the variables in our equation. So now to derive our equation of equilibrium, say. Okay, so to derive this the equation of equilibrium, so now we use this calculus of variations. Okay, you remember last class, I don't know, last class or previous class. Okay, so we have set in calculus of variations we said, right? So y of x is equal to, we write some y of x plus epsilon into eta of x, we write like this. But now here there are many variables are there. So you have u, then you have v, then you have phi. So automatically in calculus of variations, if you expand all three and then you do all those details, so previously we have told, so you will get the Euler Lagrange equations. So it's very easy, straightforward. You can see in any variational calculus textbooks. Okay, so Euler Lagrange equations we have. So these are standard equations. Okay, so now since you are having three variables, so u, v, phi, so you will get three equations. So the equation will be, so dou f by dou u, d by dz. So dou f by dou u dash plus d square, say, by dz square, dou f by dou u double dash is equal to 0. Okay, the second equation, everything remains same, only you have to replace u with v. Okay, so d by dz, so dou f by dou v dash plus d square, say, by dz square, so dou f by dou v double dash. Okay, and the last one is for phi. So these are standard. Okay, the classical the Euler Lagrange equation. So dou f by dou phi dash plus, so d square by dz square So dou f by is dou phi double dash, okay, is equal to 0. So now your f is this complicated function. So all EIY, EIX, E warping, then GJ, MBX, MBY, all those terms are there. So now you just substitute. It's a very straightforward derivative itself. Okay. So like for example, what is dou f by dou u? What is dou f by dou u? See now this is our f. So this entire expression has our f. Okay. So what is dou f by dou u? So this entire expression you have to differentiate with respect to dou u. See now if you see in all these terms, say there is no u at all anywhere. So dou f by dou u is 0. Now similarly say dou f by dou v. Okay, so this is also equal to 0. Now dou f by dou u dash say, okay, dou u dash. So this is a derivative of this function with respect to the first derivative. So there is no u dash v dash in this expression. So this also is 0. So dou f by dou u dash is also 0. But dou f by dou u double dash, you are having u double dash here. So this becomes 2 times u double dash, and this becomes 2 times v double dash. All those terms will come into picture. So you just substitute all those things in our Euler Lagrange equations. You will get our equations of equilibrium. So the first one say, so this finally turns out to be, so EUY, so U, the fourth order equation comes minus d square by dz square mbx times phi is equal to 0. This is the first equation, gives you like this. Now the second one gives us EIX, the fourth order equation. So d square by dz square, so mby into phi. So this is equal to 0. Then the last equation say, which has 5. So that term, so you have a complicated expression. So E into, the warping. Okay. So phi, it is also a fourth order equation, minus Gj. So phi double dash minus mbx u double dash and plus mby v double dash plus ax bar wx plus ay bar wy, okay, multiplied by your phi is equal to 0. So these are our 3 fundamental equations for the lateral torsional buckling. Okay, so all of them are you can comment now how these what type of equations are these. Previously also we have solved coupled in terms of what and what. See the first equation, if you see, so what does it is?
Bending in X and
bending in X, yes, torsion. Now this is bending in other direction and torsion. The last one is like you remember, right? Last class we already derived for more or less same actual px py, you remember, right? p5 something like that. So here also you will get more or less, you see, the same kind of a thing. So this is much like this equations are something like more generalized case. Of course, you will not have Wx at all in many problems. You have only, the load is applied in y direction only, but it is a more general kind of a thing. So you can solve variety of problems, with these equations itself. So now let us see, you followed it. These are more general. So now let us make it more, interesting, like special cases. Okay, we can solve. So now, so we can solve the first classical problem, say. Okay, so what is the classical problem? Like in your undergraduate, what is the first problem you have solved in bending? What is the first problem you would have done? So in strength of material courses, when first we derive, right, this bending moment, shear force, all those things we try to do. What is the first classical thing you solve in mechanics?
simply supported.
Simply supported, but before that itself, you do, right, one small one special case. What is that one? What is that one you do, right? Or your Euler-Bernoulli beam theory, say what it is called, Euler-Bernoulli beam theory.
The constant moment.
Constant moment, pure bending, you remember, no? This is a classical case, pure bending. So bending moment is constant, no load is applied on the beam. You are having only constant movement kind of a thing. So this is a classical, the problem. So these are starting you followed, right? In bending moment, shear force, of course, simply supported that comes later, but pure bending you followed, right? That is how we try to solve. And now if it is a pure bending, say only bending moment is there and it remains constant throughout the beam, now what happens? So now let us say we ignore this Wx kind of a thing. So there is no all these that these equations are much more complex. So you have only m kind of a thing. And bending moment diagram is constant. Okay, so everywhere it is m itself. So now what happens to that? There is no m this by or something like that. So we assume that this m by is 0 kind of a thing. So you are having only this one. So now these equations, if you boil down, so eiy, so u fourth order equation, and m is constant, so you have m, and then phi double dash is equal to 0. The second one, say, so other one is automatically that equation goes away because we are not considering in other direction. So phi iv minus gj, so phi dash, phi double dash, you have minus m into u double dash is equal to 0. So this expression, so wx, wy, all of them we have ignored. Okay, constant moment, so they go away, and mby also we have thrown out. So you are having m you followed, right? Sorry, this mby you have thrown out, so this also gone. So now you can see, so these two equations and this equation also out. Okay, so eiy, say, so this equation also out, because we are not considering biaxial bending case. So your equations will be like this. Okay, so now this equation, say, okay, you can solve very easily, although there are two equations are there. What you can do here, see how do you solve closed form solutions? The first equation, you can, it relates u with phi itself. Okay, so you can write as a phi double dash as m you followed it eiy by m into u fourth order, and you can bring r this u double dash is there, say. So you can integrate this equation two times. Okay, so you will have u double dash, so that you can substitute in terms of phi double dash itself also. Okay, so you can write one equation, so you can eliminate one of them. You understand, right? So you can eliminate u or phi, whichever you like, and then you solve. You can get a closed form solution also. No need to do any this itself. Okay, but anyway, for our simplicity, suppose if the ends are simply supported, simply supported kind of a thing or something like that, say. Okay, so now what are the basis functions? What do we do? You can get closed form, simply supported kind of a thing. So what will be your u and phi? What is that you have to assume? The buckling mode shapes, No, for simply supported case, what are the buckling mode shapes?
A sin pi x by
A sin pi x by L. So excellent. So here you can write as A sin pi z by L, because we are taking z as our axis. So this becomes B sin pi z by L actually. Okay, you can write like this, or you can solve yourself. Okay, there is nothing great, because these are ODEs with constant coefficients. Okay, so it is very easy to solve, same as our this thing. You followed, so you will get one order and then you can solve also. There is nothing great in this one. You can do like this. This is also another simply. So just so for if you assume these are the functions which satisfy the geometric boundary conditions. Okay, you assume the mode shape, and then you can solve also. So if you substitute, so it is very easy. So now you have to calculate the first derivative, fourth derivative, all the derivatives have to be calculated. Yes, sine. So since it is sine kind of a thing, so now you substitute, okay, in our equations. So if you substitute in the above equations, automatically, and then you solve, say. So you can write it in a matrix format. So pi by L whole square eiy, and then you have m here, then minus m here, then you have pi by L whole square. Okay, so here you are having this warping constant is there, plus gj. Okay, so this term is there. So determinant of this matrix has to be 0 0 kind of a thing you have. Okay, of course you have AB also. So this so now if you try to find out the determinant of this matrix, say, so you solve for m. Okay, because we want to find out the bending moment at which your beam is going to lateral torsional buckling itself. So you solve for m. It's a quadratic equation, m square automatically comes up. So your MCR, say this becomes pi by L square root of EIY multiplied by your E warping pi square by L square plus GJ. So this is our classical the problem. You remember in our IS 800, say the formula, if you see for lateral torsional buckling, you have like beams with unrestrained lateral then restrained supports. You remember those expressions are there, so you can go back and check your IS 800. Okay, the steel code essentially for lateral torsion buckling we use this formula itself. Some of you remember this formula, the IS 800.
Yes.
And then now here you remember when we started this lateral torsion buckling, I told you very easy to remember. Suppose if you ignore warping, say, just for timing, if warping, like if you are having a rectangular cross section, say, then warping constant will be very, very small compared to GJ. Suppose if you are having I section, channel sections or other type of sections, then warping constant also, this term also will be high only compared to this one. But if you're having square or this type of sections, the warping can be neglected. Say warping, if you remove, say, now what happens to your formula? It is a product of flexural rigidity multiplied by the torsional rigidity. You remember last time also I told you. So yeah, flexural rigidity say multiplied by your GJ. So this is like a thumb rule, very easy to remember in when in interview somebody asks you a question, say, okay. So the critical bending moment for lateral torsion buckling, the product of these two will give me this critical bending moment, okay, for the lateral torsion buckling. Just a thumb rule kind of a thing you can use, okay. So this is how this is a classical problem, okay. So now this is a classical problem we have solved. The critical bending moment for constant you can find out from this equation. Now let us move towards we may not have pure bending in all the cases. Now what is the next thing? Now you have a simply supported beam, say, with UDL. Okay, so UDL is WY, and of course WX is 0 kind of a thing. We ignore this biaxial bending. Now what is the buckling load? You have to find out the critical buckling load. Now, so this has to be found out. So when you ignore WX is equal to 0, so automatically in these three equations, this goes away. So this is not there. So you have only this equation. But here, the problem is now you have to write the expression for bending moments. So you are having MBX here, then the bending moment here. Then you also will have this AY bar WY. So this term also comes into picture actually. Okay. So if you write this expression, say, so the expression for bending moment, all of for simply supported beam. So your MBX or your MX, the bending moment diagram, say. So W bar Z into L minus Z by 2. So this is your bending moment diagram, you see, for your this section. So substitute say in our equations. Okay. So so you can write this expression as EIY. U fourth order equation plus WY by 2 Z into L minus Z into 5 double dash is equal to 0. Then you have EIY. So this warping is there here. So you have this warping constant here. So 5 IV minus GJ 5 double dash plus WY by 2 Z into L minus Z into U double dash is equal to 0. Now we have ignored AX, AY. What is the meaning of this? If AY, AX, AY bar, when it will be 0? No. See, what is AX and AY?
If the load is applied at the shear center.
No. So now if the load is applied at the, or suppose if your I section is doubly symmetric, say, like this, perfect. So now your centroid and shear center, both of them will be same actually, okay. And now let us say if the load is applied at the centroid itself, then what happens? Now your A bar X, A bar Y will be 0 itself. So here that is the meaning of this expression, okay. So to make our life simple, we have done like this. If you want to make complex, So you can add if it is at the top flange, say if the beam, the depth of the beam is some d, say. So then your AX bar, AY bar, you can write as d by 2, d by 2 kind of a thing you can do. Suppose if the load is applied at the centroid and if it is nicely symmetric section, okay, so then centroid, shear center, both of them will be same. So then your A bar X, A bar Y will be 0. Suppose if they are not 0, then you have phi term also coming into your differential equations. Okay, that is the only difference. So you can try with applying, so load is applied at the centroid. So the meaning is like this. At the centroid, okay, so and it is a doubly symmetric. So it is perfectly symmetric kind of a thing. So then you can ignore this AX bar and then AY bar also. Now here, how do you solve these type of equations? What are now? What is the problem with these ODEs? Tell me, what type of ODEs are there? You look at the
Variable coefficients.
Variable coefficients actually. Okay, so this is our big problem. Now, how do you solve ODEs with variable coefficients? How do you solve? So previously we have solved, you remember, variable coefficients. How did we do? Like you remember, self-buckling of a column, many problems we have solved. How to solve with variable coefficients? Has anybody, how did we solve? You remember that variable coefficient problem, self-buckling, we have solved previously. There, how did we do this, the self-buckling problem? You remember, how did we solve? What did we do? We did some, you remember, change of variables we tried actually. Okay, so we changed this variable to something, x is equal to r to the power of 3 by 2, sum of phi. That Greenhill's paper, I shared with all of you. So you can see there, here, what did they do? They converted this equation into some type of Bessel's equation actually. You remember Bessel or sometimes these type of equations, and then they used to solve. That is one way, okay, but that is much more complicated, and it may not be possible in all the cases. You can convert your ODEs into Bessel's or some standard equations, Hyperlegendry's differential equation or Bessel's equation or hypergeometric equations like that, and get the solutions. So generally you followed it. So these type of ODEs with variable coefficients, there is one alternative is there. Okay, so that is the power series method. You followed. So you express, say like for example, if you have anything, so you express in terms of some series kind of a thing. So they can be in terms of polynomials. Okay, so some AI z to the power of some type of a polynomials you can assume. So z to the power of I, say. So z plus z square plus z3 cube plus z to the power of 4, like that you write in terms of this power series. So now you substitute, say, so u and phi also you have to express, and you substitute in this equations. Okay, so you will get some recurrence equations come. So this all the ODEs, because they are all polynomials, no. So all the derivatives, you can nicely, they will be nicely converted into algebraic equations. So, but you will be having, so finally you will get recurrence equations you will have. So you can try, this is a standard thing in our differential equations textbooks. Okay, so recurrence relations you will get, like A3 plus some A4, A1. So they are all will be interlinked kind of thing. So we'll have several interlinked equations. You solve those equations and you can get the solution. So these generally, power series solutions we say, or sometimes, if you can use as a polynomials, or you can use a Fourier series and other things also. Okay, so this infinite series, the things you can do, and already people have solved. Okay, I think in the Timoshenko textbook, this fellow has already solved. So he gives our solutions like this. So Wy into L. Okay, so the critical buckling load, say, very easy. So gamma 1. So he gives as some this warping constant, then Gj, okay, divided by L square. Okay, so multiplication of warping rigidity multiplied by Gj, where your gamma 1, so this he calls as a coefficient. Okay, and m is, he defines a new variable which is a Gj L square by E times the warping. Oh sorry, here it is not warping, I think I made a mistake. Okay, this is a fluxional rigidity. Okay, So so this is our m, and there is a set of tables are there, okay, for variety of m values. Say he gives a table, and where the load is, so he has given. So now here also you can see these this lateral torsion buckling, it is very very easy to remember. Some this way or that way, but finally at the all the calculations you do, say finally your lateral torsion buckling depends on product of two things only: flexural rigidity multiplied by torsion rigidity. So these are thumb rule. Whatever you do, concentrated load, this load or that load or constant movement, finally all the expressions boils down to something like this itself. Okay. So fine. So I will stop here. So the next class, we will continue. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Sir, I have one question.
Please. I'll tell you.
So, while writing the expression for ys as we wrote v cos phi plus u sin phi, when we derivate it twice with respect to z, sir, in that why we are not derivating the phi, means why we are taking phi as a constant?
Okay, that is no. Now that equation, you see, you can derive for directly the curvature itself. See that expression we had ys double dash, no?
Yes, sir.
No, you have to just do some algebra there. Okay, so you write d square ys by dz square, d square phi by dz square, you will get the same expression.
Okay. It's a direct relationship. It's not like we
Directly.
have. Okay.
No. Not it is not just we have written ys is equal to v cos phi plus u sin v. We have not differentiated that. It is a relation
Yeah.
for curvature itself. You
Okay.
remember, you draw a tangent, and then it becomes a straight line kind of a thing, and then you can derive also.
Okay.
Okay, so you can try that itself. Okay. So then if there are no questions, then we will stop.